So again, we are in record mode. Kevin Coop here along with David Cisneros. Today's topic is really, it's bigger than just copywriting. It's really conversion. I'm a big fan of talking about what really matters. And at the end of the day, copywriting is an element that you definitely need to learn as much as you possibly can about, because it comes into play probably a lot more frequently than you're even aware. If you've ever created a resume to get a job or a promotion, something along that lines, you typically, we're providing some type of a written document, and copywriting techniques could certainly enhance your ability to either get a job or get a pay increase, etc. Same thing goes through, or is true for affiliate marketers, potentially writing review sites or sending out emails. The same is true, obviously, for product creators and sellers like Dave and I. The same is true, though, for just every business on the planet. If you have a business, I don't care what it is, you are creating some type of documentation that supports your business, either advertising pieces, marketing pieces, etc. So the more you learn about copywriting and the entire everything that surrounds it, and we're going to get into that in just a second, the better you're going to do, the more sales you're going to make, the stronger your conversions are going to be. And of course, as you improve your conversions, you're going to realize basically a stronger return on your investment dollar. So whether that's buying an AdWords ad, or whether that's paying for your autoresponder service, whether that's sending out direct mail, whatever it is, if you can increase your conversions, you enhance, obviously, your ability to make more money more quickly, and at the same time, you're going to have a dramatic boost in your ROI. So with that, this is a topic that I quite honestly, I love. I love it probably more than most people might even imagine. Marketing and copy really just gets me all excited, and I love to talk about it, and I could talk about it for hours and hours and hours and hours, but we don't have that much time. So I've prepared a PowerPoint presentation that's going to take us through at least the highlights. I'm certainly not going to have the ability to teach you copy first to last in an hour-long webinar, but I will do my best to give you as many solid nuggets as I possibly can that will help you in your own businesses, whatever that might be. Real quick, in my first email, I told you that there would be some type of an offer that was going to happen after this, and there will be one coming sooner than later. However, as a result of just life, the back end of the offer isn't ready. So it might take me a day, it might take me a few days, but within the next few days, probably Monday at the latest, you will get an offer if you want to do some live study with me further. It's going to be most likely an 8-week live webinar-based course with a bunch of printed out supplements as well. So with that, let's get going. Also, at the very end of this, I will have a free bonus for you. I found a very good small work on copywriting by a copy legend that you can buy at Amazon for like $6 or $7, but I found it for you free, and I will give you that resource at the end. So here we go. We fire up PowerPoint, and we will start. So this webinar basically is entitled The Keys to Conversion, Copywriting, Marketing, Graphics, and More. And you'll see how all that dovetails together as we go along. First, you may be asking why me, or said more appropriately, what qualifies me to talk on this subject. And so I'm going to brag on myself just very quickly. Number one, I have worked in sales, basically selling face-to-face, and I have sold well over $1 million worth of products and services. Stuff like stereos and electronics when I was selling for Circuit City, musical instruments when I was selling for Guitar Center, later selling loans, small personal loans, home loans, insurance through ITT Financial, and then much later actually selling more than $1 million just by itself of custom cabinetry when I was in business partnership with a custom cabinetry firm for a period of a few years. So I have a lot of sales experience in regards to actual face-to-face selling. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you have to, go out and get a job as a door-to-door salesman or something like that in order to be a strong copywriter. However, the more you know about sales and the selling process, the better you're going to be, not only in writing copy, but just in the ability to persuade people to see a point of view, that you're trying to basically relate to them, whether that's just having a debate on some topic, political or otherwise, or whether it's actually trying to sell a product or service. This whole topic, copywriting, marketing, persuasion, everything is basically wrapped up into what are we doing? In effect, we are selling. So I've also worked as a graphic designer and a copywriter for 2 different advertising firms, and in the couple years that I did that, I had created more than 2,000 ads for them. This basically gives me a unique perspective, and quite honestly, I kind of hesitated to create a full-blown copywriting marketing type product, only because there's so much good material out there by people who have sold billions, with a B, billions of dollars in sales behind them. And so it's kind of like, well, what do I have to offer? What do I have to give? Well, as someone who's a student and as someone who's read dozens of books on copywriting, I've flown as far as to England for copywriting seminars. I've purchased $2,000 home study courses. I'm a student. I continually learn. I continually buy and read books. I continually, try to improve. But one thing I found missing in almost all the stuff that I've read is, while some of them will talk a little bit about graphic design and layout, most of them are really coming from the position of a copywriter who's never actually done design. And so I do have a unique experience in that I've both worked professionally as a copywriter for a ad firm, and I've also at the same time been employed as a graphic designer. Lastly, my copy has produced sales in excess of $1 million for myself, the companies I've worked for, which are the advertising firms I just mentioned, my freelance clients, and my coaching students. So I'm hoping that that's enough. You kind of get the idea. If not, here's a little proof. This is a screenshot just out of Warrior Plus, which is what I use to sell the majority of my WSOs. The left-hand figure that says 11,908, that's the amount of individual sales I've done through Warrior Plus. The 12% is my average conversion to sale. And the 151,000 figure over there is the gross sales that I've run through Warrior Plus the last couple of years. So having said that, if you know anything about conversions, you know that 12% is a very strong value if you're talking about conversion to sale. It will be low if you're talking about converting to like leads, if you're talking about converting someone to a free report or something. But this is all items for purchase. All right. So what I want you to understand is that words matter, and they matter a whole lot more than most people probably think. Of course, it is bigger than words, and I'm going to prove that to you, or at least show you that visually here in just a minute. But starting with this whole understanding of conversion, you need to understand that words matter. Words matter for a lot of different reasons, but each individual word that we use actually paints mental pictures for the individual reading them. So you have to be cognizant, you have to think about the fact that each word that you're using when you make a sales presentation, or when you write an AdWords ad, or when you send out an email, each and every word that you're using is creating a unique mental picture for the person reading it. And here's just a simple example of what I'm talking about. So here are 2 sentences, and be honest, which of these sentences do you prefer? A, we have a great selection of used cars, or B, we have a great selection of certified pre-owned vehicles. Now, I didn't create any polls for this webinar, but if I did, I feel very confident that y'all would be selecting B. Anybody respond back, Dave?
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of B's.
Now, you have to ask yourself why that is. I mean, honestly, they say the exact same thing, right? What
Yeah.
is a certified pre-owned vehicle? Well, a pre-owned vehicle is a used car. That's all it is. The term certified, of course, what is that? Most people don't even know. I mean, there's no legal asterisk next to it that explains what certified is. There's imagery in that word, certified, just that one word by itself, that is giving us this mental picture that, oh, they've gone through the vehicle, they've done inspections, they've done all of that stuff is this mental picture that's being painted in our head simply through the use of that one word, certified. Everybody kind of get that? Sorry, take a drink of water. So I think, and I'm hoping we could just go into this topic for a long, long time and using different words to basically say the same thing, and you would definitely get a different feel. So when you're writing, take a moment before you shoot off the email, or if you're writing a resume, obviously write it, go back through it, proofread it, edit it. My suggestion would be to read it out loud, to let others read it out loud, to make sure that you're not too close into what you've written. It's always a wise thing if you can get someone else to read your copy, because they will frequently find things that you don't, because of course you were the writer. But you have the ability to say the same thing, and that's basically what I'm trying to say through A and B, two different ways, but one of them is much more likely to get a favorable response for you if you happen to be a seller of used cars. All right. Now that we've talked about the fact that words matter and that each word has a mental picture associated with it, and you can either use that to your benefit, or it can absolutely kill your conversions too if you're using words that paint negative mental pictures in the minds of the prospects reading them. I do want to point out a few lies. And lies might be too strong a word. I don't think that everybody that's using them is really lying. I think some people are they're just a little bit naive, maybe ignorant, but there are some lies out there, and I want to cover them. And here are what I would call the lies. Lie number one is that the copy, in other words, the words that you're writing to support your sales message, trumps everything else. This is typically what you're going to hear from someone who is a copywriter and nothing else. Someone, that's all they do. They write copy. They're not involved in the marketing aspect. They're not involved in the graphics or the layout. They're not involved with anything. They simply write copy. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to have, and that's what I'm hoping to impart to you during this webinar, is to have a bigger, broader mental understanding of the truth behind what really drives conversions. If you have someone who's a pure copywriter who isn't involved in anything else, you will very frequently hear them say, and it's even been printed in books from well-known copywriting authors and trainers, that the copy is the most important thing, that graphics don't matter, that layout doesn't matter, that whatever, if you have, awesome copy, stuff sells. That is absolutely not the truth. Lie number two is that the design of a piece is the most important element. Of course, you can figure out who's most likely to say that. It's the designer, right? Everybody wants to feel that their own little piece of this pie is the most important part. So if you have a pure designer, someone who's not writing the copy, someone who's not involved in the marketing, they're just given the copy and they're asked to design it and lay it out, they are very likely to tell you that their aspect is the most important, and that is also not true. And lastly, you'll also hear them say that the offer is the only thing that matters, and this is what typically you're going to hear from the marketing department. The marketing department is typically the one that's going to work with the client to develop the overall offer, the positioning of the offer. We'll get into that a little bit later. And they're the ones that are, of course, going to tell you that their piece of the pie is the most important. I'll tell you, though, of the three, the last one is probably the closest to the truth. The offer isn't the only thing that matters, but I will tell you, even as someone who considers himself a copywriter, I will tell you that I believe that the offer is much more important than the copy. It's not that the copy isn't extremely important. It is. But if you have an incredible offer, if you have something that really, really, really is of huge benefit to the market in which you're going to put it in front of, and the pricing is in line, and the proof is there, and the guarantees are there. If the offer is extremely strong, you can use just average, kind of ho-hum copy, and you're going to make sales, and probably strong sales. Conversely, if you have, a horrid offer, you can be the best copywriter in the world and you're going to struggle. So here's some of the truths. The offer, the copy, and the design are all important. You probably already picked up on that. They work synergistically. They work together. If you have a strong offer, if you have strong copy, and if you have strong design, of course, you got the marketing trifecta, right? That's the goal that we should all be shooting for, is to be strong in all three of those departments. Again, like I just said, if your offer stinks, you can expect failure. There might be a handful of copywriters that could figure out a way to get conversions when an offer stinks, but the result of that is not going to be good. It's not going to be, even for them, even if they were awesome, it's not going to be good. The offer has to be strong. Another truth is that great copy can boost your conversions and your ROI, and this is something that you really need to spend as much time as you possibly can on learning anything and everything that you can in regards to how to improve your copy, because even just small incremental moves, for instance, most offers, unless it's an offer that's a physical offer that has really low margins or something like that, most offers can survive off of conversions of 1% to 2%. So if you basically put your offer in front of 1,000 people and you can make 10 to 20 sales, typically you have an offer that will actually produce a profit. But if you can improve your conversion from 1 to 1.3, just that small incremental move actually increases the overall effectiveness from 1 to 1.3 of not, it seems like such a low value, but it's actually a 30% increase. So little moves in your copy can give you huge rewards on the back end. So it's something definitely to think about. And lastly, bad design and or layout can reduce your conversions. In fact, they probably can kill them. If you have really poor design and or layout, you reduce the readability or the clarity of the message. It adds confusion, and a bad designer or a bad layout can really cripple an offer. So let's talk just for a minute about advertising versus marketing. This gets asked to me all the time. Aren't they the same thing? Well, if they were, we wouldn't have two different words. I'm going to give you the Webster's definitions. So Webster's says that advertising is basically to call public attention to things for sale. Okay, it's pretty simple, pretty short. Marketing, however, is the total of activities involved in the moving of goods from the producer to the consumer, including selling, advertising, etc. So if you pick up on that, you'll notice that marketing is a lot more all-encompassing. There's a lot more to it. One of the elements, though, does include advertising. Marketing is where basically marketing is a huge topic. We can probably spend several hours just talking about what marketing is. It's locating your market. Where are the people most likely to be interested in your product or service? It's what are they interested in? How do we create an offer that would be of interest to them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's much broader, a topic than is advertising. Advertising, and I'll show you an example of advertising in just a second. In other words, basically, marketing encompasses much more than advertising. And I guess that's my point. My point is, when you think about marketing, don't just think about advertising. There's so much more to it than just putting out an ad. Here's an ad. All right. The color is a little bit off. I took a digital photo of an ad earlier today, And this is an ad for Garnier. I think that's how it's pronounced, a skin moisturizing product. And this is an ad. And if you ask me, it's a horrible waste of money. Now, I can't prove that to you. I don't know anybody over at Garnier to ask them about this. But here's why I don't like it. I don't like pure advertising for a lot of reasons. First off, this was placed in Prevention magazine, a small format magazine, and I don't know the ad cost, but I will tell you that it's a full-page ad in that size. The ad cost would be very significant, so they're paying out a lot of money for it, number one. But what you're not going to see is there's no call to action. There's no way to order. I mean, look at this thing. There's, you know, there's graphics, there's, you know, a quasi headline, but after that, there's like a tagline, "Take care, Garnier." After that, there's nothing. There's no phone number of how to order it. There's no web address for how to learn more about it. There's no, you know, free offer, you know, for a free sample. There's nothing. There is no direct response mechanism that even asks anybody to do anything based on seeing the ad. So the problem with ads like this, well, there's a whole bunch of problems, but the first problem is that you can't measure them. There's no way to measure this ad. If there was a phone number and you were enticing people to call, you could use a trackable phone number and track, you know, the effectiveness of this particular ad, especially if you're running that tracking phone number on this specific ad and on no other. There's no web address that's got a, you know, a specific URL or a unique URL that you could drive the traffic to and see, you know, what either your traffic was to that page, or, you know, your response to maybe a free sample offer, something like that. There's no way to track it. And if you can't track your advertising, you got problems. You need to know, you know, where your money is going, and you can't know that with this particular ad. If you do ever place pure ads, ads that don't have some type of direct response element, just know this. And this is a really big key, and if you're into ads, I would write this down. Frequency is the most important thing with what I would call, this is a branding ad. It's basically nothing more than just branding for the Garnier company, just keeping their brand, their logo, their product line in front of what they believe is their target market. If you're going to run branding type ads, you need to ensure that you are running them frequently. This is not something that you can run once and then take out. If you do, it will do absolutely no good. People are conditioned to kind of just be ad blind to these type of things, and it takes a while for the frequency to happen in order for it to, kind of, you know, the person kind of wakes up. This is why, you know, billboards along the side of a freeway or something like that can sometimes work, even if they're, you know, just a branding type ad, because frequently people travel the same way. You might go to the same freeway route to work, and you might, you know, just subconsciously see that ad in the side of your periphery, you know, every day as you travel to work, and all of a sudden you need skincare product, and Garnier somehow pops to mind. That's what they're hoping for, but it's a big long shot if you ask me. Some of the sales basics. So just in regards to conversion, what we're really going to talk about is an understanding of sales, at least a top level understanding of sales, persuasion, and then of course copywriting and graphics. Those four elements are really they dovetail together to create the entire conversion system. But in regards to sales basics, what you're doing is you're having a conversation with a prospect. I mentioned earlier that I have experience in face-to-face selling, and if you can think about any time that you've gone into a retail establishment or to a car lot or any place where there's an actual live salesperson, you can visualize that in your mind. Basically, you're having a conversation with the salesperson. The salesperson then is basically trying to identify the prospect's desires and needs. And I put desires before needs on purpose because while we do make purchases based upon our needs, we primarily buy upon our desires, with probably few exceptions. And maybe if you're buying, just generic water and maybe just toiletries or something like that, maybe that's just all need-based. But most of the things that we buy, we don't buy because we need them. We buy because we want them, and want goes with desire. So whenever you're selling to someone, you need to identify the prospect's desires, also their needs, but you need to basically, what is really the underlying motive for them wanting to make this particular type of purchase. Sales basics continued. You're offering a product or service that's right for them. Would make no sense, to know what the desires and needs are for a prospect and then to go offer them a product or service that was completely disconnected with what they wanted and or needed. You're going to highlight the benefits to the prospect. Again, understand that while we each, do care about others, the truth is we all care more about ourselves than we do about other people, which is kind of goes back to the what's in it for me understanding. When you're selling to someone, you need to highlight the benefits to them, not what you think is cool about the product, but after understanding the prospect's desires and needs, then come up with a mechanism to highlight the benefits, basically how it will benefit the prospect if they go through and make the sale. You're going to justify the price. Price justification comes up very often in sales. People don't just, even people with a lot of money, don't just, want to waste it. We all want to know that we're paying a fair price for what we're purchasing. Sales persons are frequently going to be required to overcome objections. So through the selling process, certain objections may come up. It might be the price. It may be a particular benefit that you haven't yet mentioned that the prospect is very interested in. There's going to be objections that are brought up during the sales process, and the salesperson's job then is to have a legitimate, honest, ethical response to the objection and basically spin the objection in a way that allows them to know that they're taken care of. And last, and this is extremely crucial, you have to ask for the sale. You can do everything else right and blow what's called the close, and you're going to struggle. You have to be very clear. People want to be led down the path, and I know it's kind of one of those weird things. If you think about yourself, you'd say, no, I'm smarter than that. I don't need someone to tell me, click here now or pick up the phone now. We all think maybe that's not necessary, but it absolutely is. We all like to get a very clear picture and be told to a degree what to do. So when you're making your close, make sure that your close is very, very clear and it's decisive. It's not, well, if you want to, you could, maybe buy this thing. That's not going to make you any sales. You need to be confident and you need to be clear and you need to give them a specific call to action in regards to what you want them to do next. Quickly, a couple of books recommended. There's a lot of great sales books out there, and there's many, many different types of approaches for selling. The very first book I purchased is on the left. These are both by the same author, the author with the funny name, excuse me, Zig Ziglar. But the very first book I bought when I was in sales was Secrets of Closing the Sale. It's on the left, and it's a very good book. You can see at the top it says America's #1 Bible of Persuasion. So obviously persuasion and sales they're married, right? Anyone who's really good at sales is also a good persuader. On the right-hand side, it's Ziglar on Selling. It's a much newer book, and if you were only going to look for one, I would recommend the newer one just because it has newer or more updated information. But both are very good books. Excuse me. Persuasion Basics. I just said that sales and persuasion are married, but they're two different things that get married together. They're not the same thing. Persuasion is basically the tactics or the techniques that you use in order to get someone to see something from your perspective, to see the offer the way you see it, to see you think that your product or your service is the greatest thing in the world. Now you have to be able to persuade someone else that it is. So you have to understand that firstly, people buy based on emotion, but they justify with logic. This is another one of those things that you may or may not believe me, right off the top. You might say, I don't, buy on emotion. I go to the grocery store. I'm not emotional. I just buy stuff. But trust me on this, it's not true. We buy based on emotion, but we justify with logic. Here's just a quick example. So let's say someone goes and they're in the market for a new car and they decide that they're going to buy a Mercedes-Benz, a car that's, well above average in price. Why are they buying the car? Why are they buying a Mercedes-Benz and not even maybe some other quote-unquote luxury car that might cost far less? Maybe a Lexus or something else, or even the new Hyundai Genesis. Why the Mercedes? Why are they going to spend $10, $15, $20,000 plus more for the Mercedes than they're going to buy a comparable car as far as features and quality, etc. So the reason is because there's all these emotional attachments to Mercedes-Benz, and Mercedes has done a phenomenal job in its advertising and its marketing to separate themselves, to make them head and shoulders above others. At least that's the perception. There's a more elite kind of a group of people that you get involved in when you become a Mercedes owner, and there's special treatment that you get when you go to the dealer because, well, you're a Mercedes owner, you're special, right? This whole thing. It's the emotion of thinking that you're going to drive, your new car home and all of your neighbors are going to, whoa, look at that, I just got a new Mercedes. It's this confidence boosting. It's this level of awe that others are going to project on you, whether it's your neighbors or driving across town. It's the fact that you think that maybe for a guy, you're going to drive down the street and you're going to turn more girls' heads and you're going to get this, you're going to get more interest that way. Whatever it is, it's all emotional based. You'd be very hard pressed to truthfully justify that purchase with pure logic. But when we justify to ourselves, we use logic. And here's what I mean by that. If you were to ask the new Mercedes owner why they bought it, they are not likely to tell you any of these things. They're not likely to say, well, I bought it because I want to feel superior to you. They're probably not going to tell you that, even though that's probably going on in their head. They're not going to tell you, most likely, that they bought it because pretty girls pay more attention to them when they drive it. Those things are probably not going to be things that they're going to tell you, even though they are the things that are in their subconscious. What they're going to tell you is, well, according to this report, the Mercedes holds its value longer than this and this, and of course there's the German engineering. Everybody knows German engineering is better. Is it really? I don't know, but we've been conditioned through advertising to believe that German engineering is better. You see my point. All of this stuff, all of this logic will be used by the prospect to justify to themselves and to others why they made the purchase, but understand that the purchase was based on emotion. And you need to understand that because you need to be able to connect to people on an emotional level. Next, and these are just like a few of the many persuasion techniques. And please note that when I'm talking about persuasion, I'm not talking about anything creepy. I'm not talking about, trying to, hypnotize someone, put them in a trance and force them to do what you want to do. That's not what we're talking about at all. Persuasion is a very honorable thing. To be able to communicate to someone in a way that is honest and truthful and allows them to see the real benefit or the value in what you have to offer is very, very necessary. So persuasion tactic number 2 is credibility. Both the product itself has to be credible, seem credible to the prospect, as does the seller of the product. So items like if you're a doctor selling a a health product, the use of, Joe Jones, MD. That MD is a credibility booster. It's, oh, this product is a health product and it's coming from a, someone who is a medical doctor, someone who has that schooling and education and title. It could be further enhanced with, Nobel Peace Prize winner. Now we get into awards and accolades. So there's all sorts of different ways that you can boost the credibility for the seller. Sometimes it's boosting the credibility, not necessarily even of the individual, but the company. For example, you look at a McAfee Secure logo, or maybe the logo from VeriSign that your SSL is certified, or whatever. Any type of credibility that basically lends to the product, the seller, or the purchasing process that makes the prospect feel secure, right? Product credibility can be done a bunch of different ways. One of them, of course, happens through reviews and testimonials from others. Another, could be case study information. It could also be, proof elements, like a screenshot, like I did at the beginning of this webinar, that says, look, here's something tangible that you can look at that says that I'm credible. Next is proof. We just talked about that. Social and otherwise. So social proof is huge. It's bigger than we probably all even imagine, but basically we like to know that others believe that we're doing the right thing, that we're not just alone. And so to see a testimonial, or to go to Amazon and see a review, and hopefully see, if there's 20 reviews, that 18 of them were listed as 5s, and the other 2 were a 3 and a 4 or something. That social proof is very, very strong. It's a very, very strong motivating factor. We like to know that we're not the only one that feels a particular way about something, in this case a product or a service. Reasons why. We are all curious. We all want to know why. So if you're ever reading your copy and you're making some type of a statement that seems like it might be a little bit far-fetched, a little bit hard to kind of believe, do your best to answer that question, because it's already going on in the prospect's mind. They're already asking themselves, okay, well, why? So let's say, for example, you're going to sell your new Mercedes, and you put out an ad, and you're asking for $99.99. It's a brand new Mercedes, or maybe it's a year old. It doesn't really matter. Wow, that's a great offer, right? But immediately it actually puts up barriers, because a reasonable person has to ask themselves why. That doesn't make any sense. So just because it's a low price doesn't necessarily mean that you're overcoming price resistance. You can actually create it. So think about any of the places in your offers where you might have made statements that by themselves don't seem super credible, and that you're not offering some amount of credibility in regards to them. If you're not, then the credibility booster for that is to answer the reason why. The reason why might be, and I know that this actually happened in the past, there was someone that was selling a luxury vehicle, and they were selling it really dirt cheap. Honestly, I think it was $1. And the reason why was right in the ad. The individual, unfortunately, was getting divorced from their spouse, and was basically told by the spouse to sell the car, and they would split the proceeds. And he was angry enough to do what he did, and he sold the car for $1 and gave her 50 cents. So if there's a reason why, you need to make it very clear. Another persuasion basic is price justification. Like I said before, we all want to know that we're not overpaying for things. So if you're asking a particular price for something, what justifies that price? Specifically, if the price you're asking for is either strongly above or even below kind of the expected norm. So, if you're selling a physical book and you're selling it for, somewhere between, say, $10 and $30, you probably don't have to do a lot of price justification. But, for example, I purchased a book, and I'm looking at it right now, on copy. It's called 2 Hours to More Profitable Sales Copy by Clayton Makepeace, who's considered to be the highest paid copywriter living today. This is it's just a book. I mean, it's just a regular book, and I probably should have put a picture of this book up there so you could see it, but I'm going to flip to the back. It's 276 pages. It's not all that big. It's just a regular book. I paid $294 for this book. Just this book. That's it. So the question then becomes, well, okay, why? Goes back to why your price justification, needs to be clear. In this case, this guy is one of the greatest living copywriters, has sold more than $1 billion of copy, and I put extreme importance into what he has to say on the topic. So to me, $294 was a investment, but you have to understand why. No one is going to just walk into a regular bookstore without having known some type of a background on an author and, pick up 2 books on copywriting, one that's, $20 and one that's $294, and decide that they're going to buy the $294 product. So price justification is very important. Scarcity and or loss. This is when we come up with time-sensitive offers, right? So there's a limited number of units, or the sale is only on for 24 hours or 72 hours, or whatever the case is. Scarcity and loss are very strong persuaders to get people off the fence to make a decision. So if they know that they only have, the next 24 hours to make a decision, it stays in the front of their thought process. It's not something they can just kind of tuck away. It's something that eats at them. Like, there's a time, there's a clock ticking. I got to make a decision, yes or no. And of course, there's all these other elements need to be in line to enhance the conversion, but that scarcity and loss is huge, which of course is why so much of the advertising and marketing pieces that we put out do have some type of a limit. Not every, but some of them do. You get a coupon and it's got an end date, right? So this coupon is only valid to such and such a date, or the first 50 get a special bonus. And if you're 51, you don't get it, so you're worried about loss, etc. So just think about scarcity and loss and try to come up with ways to inject them into your copy. You might also, and if you're creative, not that you have to be all that creative, you can come up with ways to actually stack them, and this is what I mean by that. Frequently, if we offer something, especially if we offer it on the Warrior Forum, because Warrior Plus makes it so easy to do, there is the ability to add what they call the dime sale feature. So the first 30 get it at this price, and then the 31st person that comes along, they're going to pay whatever it is, 25 cents more, $1 more, whatever. So right there's an element of scarcity or loss, because in effect, even though you may not have limited the number of units, you can see the counter basically ticking down. There was 30 available, then there's 10, and then there's 3, and then if I don't get it now, I'm going to lose out on this particular price, the best price that's available to me at this time. If you also worked in at the same time a scarcity of units, for instance, there's only 1,000 of these will be sold, and there's also the dime sale feature. Now you have 2 different types of scarcity or loss running at the same time, and you can basically compound those 2 together and make the persuasion, or make the prospect even more likely to make a decision. Then there's risk reversal. Risk reversal is basically, you can say it a bunch of different ways, but basically it's the offer's guarantee. What are you offering to the prospect should they purchase and then have some type of issue later, even if that issue was nothing more than buyer's remorse, just the fact that maybe I shouldn't have done that. If you can remove risk in your offers, and I would recommend that you always do, you are going to definitely increase your conversions. Offers, and it's been proven time and time again by me and by many others, if you are not offering a guarantee, There are times when it might be necessary, but if your offer says, look, there's no guarantees, take it or leave it kind of thing, that's a huge objection, and the risk reversal is basically the way that you overcome that objection. Well, what if I made the wrong decision? The risk reversal is what overcomes that objection, and if that's not there, your conversions typically suffer. So on the topics of persuasion, I'm going to recommend a couple of books as well, just like I did on sales. Both of these are by Robert Cialdini. The one on the right, the one that's entitled Yes, actually has a couple of additional authors to it. You'll see Mr. Goldstein and Mr. Martin. But both of these are incredible books. And honestly, if you were to only buy one book to improve your ability to convert, whether it was with the written word or whether it was through face-to-face selling or whether it was even forget conversions, maybe just talk about your ability to be more influential, to be able to persuade better, maybe getting your kids to eat broccoli. I don't care what it is, that's a persuasion process. So if you're only to get one, I would recommend either one of these, but if you're only going to buy one, I would get the one on the right called Yes. And I say that only because of this. Yes is broken down into basically 50 different persuasion techniques and tactics, and they stand alone. So where the psychology of persuasion, influence, is basically a book. It kind of reads front to back. Where Yes is really kind of like almost like 50 little books inside. So if you only have 10 or 15 minutes, it's easy to blast through a section or two, put a bookmark in, and kind of feel like you're almost done at that point. Not that you are, but you don't get that feeling like, oh, I haven't finished it. It's just kind of different in that way. So if you only have the ability to get one, I would get Yes. Let's talk a little bit about design and layout basics. Again, I told you that this is something that some copywriters will tell you, it doesn't matter, and I will tell you that they're wrong. Number one, the design should be pleasing but not distracting. And this is where pure designers can kill your stuff. If a designer doesn't understand their place, if they don't understand that their entire job is to help support the actual copy, the sales message, and they just think that they're going to, just get flowery and crazy, they can absolutely kill your conversion. You can have the greatest copy in the world, but put your copy in too small a typeface. Dave, you there? Hello? Dave? Hoping you all are still with me. Let me go check my own comments real quick. I'm getting some pops, and I'm not sure what's going on. Let me look at the questions really quickly. Everybody's still here. Okay, good. Not sure what's going on with Dave. So back to design and layout basics. The design should be pleasing but not distracting. In other words, if the type that they're using is tiny and it's white type on a black background, that reverse type is what that's called, is very, very hard to read. It's very hard on the eyes. It's a big no-no in my opinion, unless you're using a very small portion of it and you make sure that the type is big enough that it can be easily read. That's a bad thing. If you put some type of a complex background that's screened back, as we refer to it, or basically somewhat translucent but not entirely, behind black text over the top of it, it can make it almost impossible to read. Anything that the design does should enhance reading, and if it distracts either the eye or the ability to read the message, it's bad. So you need to just understand that. Oops, something happened. Okay. The overall goal of the design and layout should be to enhance readership, which is what I basically just said, and the designer needs to understand that. Hopefully you're working with a designer that's done direct response type of layouts before, and if you have, then hopefully you have a designer that's going to improve your sales message, not reduce it. Clarity is the key. Of course, this is the same with your writing. The text must be easy to read. Any devices that are used should attract attention, and direct the eyes of the viewer and the reader. I should have given you a specific example, but through graphics, and I guess the easiest way to paint this mental picture in your head would be to use of maybe like an arrow. If you use an arrow in copy, it's natural for the eye to follow the arrow point wherever the arrow point is leading to. So I'm hoping that you can see that. You can also do the same thing more subtly with like a human being. You have a picture of someone, the prospect, the viewer, is likely to look at the image, because images definitely draw attention even before text, and then they follow the path of the eyes of the photo that's being used. So if you had a photo on a page, and let's say that the photo was on the left side of the page and the individual was looking off to the left away from all of the copy, you would actually reduce readership, because the individual would see the photo, and then their natural eye progression is to basically follow the eyes of the individual in the photo, and since it's leading them off the page or away from the actual sales message, it's bad. The eyes and everything else should bring basically back into the text, understanding that the design is important, but its job is to enhance readership. And of course, to keep it simple, I would recommend the use of only a couple of different font types and just a handful of colors. Designers that use a bunch of different font types on one page or in one ad, it just adds to confusion. Same thing with colors. You know, starting to want to get this multicolor rainbow thing going on, and it just doesn't, it's not cohesive. It just doesn't make sense. So I'm going to give you just a quick layout example. That's not really in graphics so much, but just layout. I know that you can't read the text. You more likely can't read the text, and that's okay. This is not, that's the point. The text is straight from my own copy product, the one that I did in conjunction with John Hostler, and I showed you that at the very beginning, Write Hot, Copy Fast. This is the text from the top part of that particular sales letter. In this example, I've done basically no real layout. Everything is left justified. It's all the same courier type font. There's no spacing between paragraphs. Nothing's bolded, nothing's underlined, nothing's italicized, nothing's centered, etc., etc., etc. And if you just look at that graphically, you would probably go, ooh, yuck, just, you know, within just a couple of seconds time. If we look at number 2 now, it's the same exact copy, but now you've got the pre-headline, the bit of text that comes above the big bold headline. It's centered, and it's a little bit bigger font. The headline, of course, is bigger and bolder. The deck copy, as it's called, that comes underneath the headline is also centered. It's also a little bit bigger than the standard text. There's white space breaking up the paragraphs, and towards the bottom you'll see another centered bolded statement. It starts with, how do you make sales copy so simple to understand? That's called the subheadline, and that subheadline is also, you know, a little bit bigger and a little bit bolder, and your eye is drawn to it as well. Just by that simple little bit of layout, this now becomes something that you might actually read. Whereas if I go back to number 1, I'm pretty much sure that if you showed up to a web page, or if this was sent to you in the mail, you would take very little time basically throwing this in the trash can or hitting your back button. This by itself is already much more effective. Here's layout number 3, and this is the last. I didn't, you know, go further with graphics on it, but just to give you an idea. The only real difference with this now is, again, it's the same exact copy. We have some more bolding going on. The headline was done in a very typical kind of a dark burgundy red. Not that there's any mystical thing to that. I've done well with that color. I've done well with a kind of a dark blue. But it sets it off. It makes it, the attention is more drawn to that, and that's what we're trying to do anyway. This is going to get more conversions than even the last, simply because it's more pleasing to the eye and the important elements are called attention to. If you notice in the deck copy, there's even a yellow highlighted section, and if you could read it, it says, if you like to make money. Well, There's very few people on the planet that don't like to make money, so that immediately, oh, that's me, it automatically qualifies the reader. I like to make money. I should pay a little attention to what this individual has to say. All right, we're almost out of time as far as just the 11 o'clock time frame, but I'm going to go ahead and just kind of blow through this and complete, and then tell you a little bit about the offer that's going to come, and then give you the free resource that I promised. So what is copywriting? Legendary copywriter John E. Kennedy was asked, and this is really his response to what is advertising, not copywriting, but he said it was salesmanship in print. In other words, the ability to sell through print. I say that it's a little bit different than that now. I say that copywriting is persuasive writing. In other words, creating a message that's designed to persuade or cause an action in the reader. Also, the end result could be read or it could be heard. In other words, if you are writing copy for video, radio, TV, etc., it's still copy, even though the end result of this is going to be read, not something that's going to come across in print. So here's some of the copywriting basics. Number one is clarity is the key. Any confusion will kill sales. The old adage is the confused mind never buys. So your copy has to be clear. It has to be very clear in regards to presenting the offer, presenting the benefits, presenting the value justification, presenting the risk reversal or the satisfaction guarantee. Very, very clear in regards to what am I supposed to do next in regards to the call to action. You want to write as if you're speaking to one person, your very best prospect. So if you think in your mind, who is most likely to want the product or service I have to offer, and then think about all of their attributes, then you're going to do a really good job speaking to them. Basically write as if you're speaking just to one person, because that's basically what your sales message is. It's, you go back and think about the selling process that we talked about at the very beginning. You're having a conversation with the prospect. That's all it is. The headline and the entire head area, and we'll talk about that in just a second, is crucial. Most copywriters will tell you it's 80 to 90% of the entire sale is made or broken in the head area of the copy. Now, I realize that we're not always going to be writing long-form sales copy. You might be writing copy for an email that doesn't necessarily have a pre-headline, a headline, a deck, etc. You might be writing copy for an e-commerce site that's different. But the head area, or the main area that you're going to see, especially if we're talking about web copy, above the fold, is crucial. It's crucial because it has to get and keep the attention of the individual who is our prospect. If it can grab the attention and then keep the attention, the likelihood of the chance for success is exponentially better. If you immediately confuse or you don't grab attention and the person just leaves without actually seeing what you have to offer, of course, you're not going to make sales. So my suggestion is you write as many different variations as you can of a headline, and possibly even the entire head area. And we'll, like I said, we'll cover that in just a second. Choose which is best. Test several, because sometimes you're going to find out that your initial gut reaction was wrong. You want to dimensionalize the offer and its benefits. And if you look up that word in a dictionary, you're not going to find it. Dimensionalize isn't there, but it's used in multiple copywriting books, and I like it. So here's what that means. Remember, we talked at the very beginning about the fact that words matter. What words do is they dimensionalize, or they become mental images. They become almost like 3D in our minds. We see things. If I say the word farmer to you, you probably just got an image of someone in, overalls and boots and, maybe a cowboy hat. There's visual pictures that show up in your mind when you read many words. That's what dimensionalize means. Basically, use words that paint mental pictures for your prospects in regards to the offer and the benefits that they're going to receive. Utilize all honest and ethical persuasion tactics. Be enthusiastic. This is a big one. I forget who said it, but it was one of the legendary copywriters said that no one will be bored in print. And what that basically means is if someone picks up a sales letter or some type of a sales message or is reading an email, if they find themselves immediately bored, they're very likely to, throw the direct mail piece in the trash or, get off the web page and go to another. They're not likely to hang around. We might hang around through a boring part in a movie, something we paid for and we're sitting through and it's kind of boring, and then it picks up. But if you're boring in print, you're going to lose. And then be bold. Ask for the sale. Goes back to understanding the selling process. People need to know what they're supposed to do next, and you need to be bold in asking them for the sale. So here's what I'm talking about in regards to the head area of copy. And again, I understand that not everyone's going to end up writing long-form sales copy like this or a sales letter. That's not my point. But if you look at the very top section, write hot, copy fast, in the graphic, on the web we would call that the header graphic. If you were doing this particular piece for an offline kind of promotional, they would call that the masthead. Regardless, it is part of the head area. It's graphically interesting, and it also speaks to the benefit. Write hot, copy fast. So that's already part of the head element. You don't have to obviously use a header graphic. You can get away without any header graphic whatsoever. But if you do use one, make sure that, of course, it's interesting and it speaks to the benefit that the individual would receive by either the product or by reading your sales message. Right underneath that, the statement that starts with warning. Again, that's the pre-headline. The pre-headline can do a bunch of things. It's basically the lead-in, obviously, to the headline. Sometimes it's also used to qualify. You can use attention, golfers, right? That is a qualifying statement. It makes sense if you're a golfer and you see it, attention golfers, hey, that's me. You pay more attention to it. Not all pre-headlines have to qualify. This one doesn't. It just says, it's just speaking to the benefit. If you read this letter, you can make new sales. Then there's the headline. Underneath that, the black content that's centered that has the yellow highlight, again, is called the deck copy. You'll hear some copywriters refer to that as the subheadline. That's technically not accurate. The subheadlines are lower on the page. The deck copy is the content that comes underneath the headline. Then there's the what's called the byline, which is the area that you may or may not include. I don't always include it, where you're basically saying who is this letter from. And then you have the salutation, which is underneath that. In this case, starts with dear friend. It can be anything that you want. And then underneath that is what's called the open, the first paragraph of the page. Basically, everything on this page that you're looking at here, of course, this is just a portion of it. Its entire purpose is to get you to read the open. It's to get you to read the very first sentence of the actual sales letter. So whenever you're writing something, if you are writing a sales letter type piece, remember that. Your goal is to, with the pre-headline, the headline, the deck, the byline, your salutation, whatever you're doing, the whole goal is to get the individual to read the first line. And of course, after they've read it, hopefully you've written a very compelling, a very interesting, a very non-boring opening statement that causes them obviously to read sentence number 2, paragraph number 2, etc., and so on. Just real quick graphically, I'm going to mention the big F that you see there. It's right there at the beginning of the opening. My cursor keeps disappearing on me. That big F is called a drop cap, a drop capital, and it is another graphic element that is used to draw the eye to it. Since we know, like I just said, that the real goal of everything at the top part of this page, everything at the head, is really designed to grab attention and to lead the individual to read that first sentence, the open. That big F very graphically draws the eye, as does these two photos. Photos specifically of people are very, very strong attention getters, and so it's not by accident that those two photos are right there above the opening sentence. What you really want is someone, even if they didn't read the headline at all, if it grabbed their attention because it's big and bold and red, and then their eyes went right to the photos, and then bingo, I see this big, bright, bold red F, and I start reading the copy, then you've succeeded. So just think about that. Real quick, I'm going to give you 3 headline formulas, and I'm going to show you some examples of them. We're almost done. Since the headline and head area are the most important, it's wise for you to put a whole lot of thought into writing headlines. I don't always write, dozens or hundreds like you'll hear people say, but I typically do write 5 to 10 at minimum, and there are times when I write plenty more than that too. But you do want to write a variety of headlines and then go back through them and see if they can be improved, and then come up with which one that you think works best for your particular piece. The first formula is just a pure benefit headline, probably the easiest to write. Basically, you're just highlighting the primary benefit offered by the product or service. So if your product is how to improve conversions, then if that's the primary benefit, then that's included in the headline. Or if it's about making money, or if it's about losing weight, or whatever the primary benefit is that's being offered by the product to the prospect. Number 2 is what's referred to as a pure emotional headline, remembering that we make purchasing decisions on an emotional basis. Evoking emotion is a very strong tactic, to bring up, the emotional background, basically, or what's driving the particular desire to make the purchase. So it speaks to the emotional need, frustration, or fear that the primary benefit addresses. I don't like those just completely by themselves. I do like the third, however, the combined benefit with emotion headline. So if you can evoke emotion, if you can get someone in an emotional type of state at the same time that you're delivering the benefit, the primary benefit, you typically will have a very strong headline. Pure benefit headlines work just fine. They can all work, but I would prefer, of these 3, I would prefer the pure benefit headline or the combined benefit and emotion headline to number 2, just a pure emotional headline. Here's a couple of examples. Example number 1, great new discovery kills kitchen odors, makes indoor air country fresh. This is the example, or an example, of just a pure benefit headline. That the benefit is basically to kill kitchen odors and to make the indoor air fresh. It also speaks to, just a quick side note, it's also considered a newsy type headline. Great new discovery is an element of news. It's like, this just in, new discovery. So anytime that you can add kind of like a news element, not always to headlines, but news element to your copy, you can typically improve conversion. It might be introducing, the latest, all that stuff is kind of newsworthy type verbiage. Headline example number 2, you can laugh at money worries if you follow the simple plan. This is a pure emotional headline, the ability to laugh at money worries. It speaks to the fact that the individual is probably having financial difficulties, they're having money worries, and the fact that you can laugh at them if you follow the simple plan. Headline example number 3, to men who want to quit their day job someday. So this is kind of, it also is very emotional. I mean, you can just kind of conjure up, if you have a job, specifically have a job that you hate, the ability to quit your day job and do something that you love is there. But there's also the benefit that's more implied than stated in this one, that you can make a living, basically, or improve your living even with having quit your day job. So here's a quick recap. The offer and its positioning is very important. Again, just understand it's not all about the copy. It's definitely not all about the graphics, and it's not all about the offer. If I had to put those in an order of importance, it definitely would be the offer first, the copy second, and the graphics third. But remember that they all work together synergistically to either improve or potentially even harm your conversions. Spend time thinking about your ideal prospect. Again, because we are selling, you're selling to a person. This is really a personal process. Even if it doesn't feel like it is, it really is. So think about your ideal prospect. What do they love? What do they hate? What are they hoping that the product or service will do for them? Really, what will it really do for them? I mean, that's what are they really hoping for? They're the primary benefits that are driving them emotionally to make a purchasing decision. It's not always what you might think. So the more you think about your offer, the more you think about your prospects, the more you think about how your offer can benefit people, the more likely you're going to come up with some really good aspects that you can include in your copy to evoke the emotion that you're going to need to make the sale. Excuse me. Write with clarity and enthusiasm. Like I said before, the confused mind never buys, so your marketing messages have to be clear. They have to be easily understood. They can't be confusing, and of course they shouldn't be boring. You should be passionate basically about what it is that you're offering. Use words that, here's that word again, dimensionalize the offer and benefits, helping them to get a positive mental picture. So anything and everything that you can do to use words that get them to have a positive mental picture, like the earlier example of the certified pre-owned vehicle as opposed to a used car. The used car does not help someone get a positive mental picture. It helps them actually do the opposite. They're visualizing some sweaty, hairy guy that's got his chest hair, poking out, maybe a big gold medallion around his neck that's trying to sell him some piece of garbage that he wouldn't sell to his own mom. But that's kind of some of the imagery that we get when we think of the used car salesman, the used car lot, etc. Whereas a certified pre-owned vehicle, it seems premium. It seems, hey, that sounds like something desirous. So just think about that. Again, be persuasive and make your call to action clear. If you blow that last part, you can have done everything else right. But if you don't have a bold and clear call to action, your conversions are going to suffer. All right, so that is it. That's my entire presentation, and I hope it was of benefit to you. Let me firstly send you, open up the chat box. I'm going to send everybody the link to the freebie, and I'll explain what it is. And then I'm just going to spend just a couple minutes. I'm not going to go into incredible detail. I'll spend a couple minutes telling you about the offer that I will make within a day or maybe 3. And then, of course, I'll email you as soon as it's actually ready for your consideration. So let me do this first. Hopefully everybody just got that. Can Dave, anybody telling you they just...
Let's see. You guys getting it? I see it in the chat box, but yeah, people are saying it's there.
Okay. Let me close this then. We'll go back to the web and I'll put it in. What this is, it is an actual short book. It's 73 pages long, written by Claude C. Hopkins, who's the gentleman that you see pictured there. Mr. Hopkins is deceased. He is definitely one of the copywriting legends. Reading his stuff will definitely benefit you, even if the language used is somewhat antiquated. There might be certain things that you're going to struggle with understanding, that you're going to have to think about a little bit, just because this is a work that was created a long time ago. But this is a work that's extremely valuable. I strongly suggest you to read it, to print it out, to put it in a binder, to get out a highlighter to make some highlights and make some notes in regards to the content. But if you were to go over to Amazon, I think they're still selling this for like $6 to $7, something like that. So it is something that is still for sale. However, this work is old enough that it's actually in the public domain. So the owner of this website, who is his name is Carl Galletti, an acquaintance of mine, someone who I do personally know, although we're not close. He bought the public domain rights to it and then is making it freely available from his site, so I figured I would pass that along to you. In regards to the offer that I will make to you, like I said, within a day or a few, here's the quick hows and whys. We'll jump back over to Write Hot, Copy Fast real quick. There's actually going to be the opportunity to do one of two things. This product that's at Write Hot, Copy Fast is still selling on ClickBank. The front-end product, if I were to scroll down to the bottom, is still selling for $47, and it comes with live video training, a bunch of great bonuses, and we made a lot of sales, and the feedback has been very, very good. It's a quality product. I will say, though, that this, and just to be completely upfront with you, this is really mostly John's product. This is John's product. I have had a little bit of influence in regards to the content and the sales letter on this page. I've had influence and have created some of these bonuses. My wife and I did the design work, so there's elements of this that are mine, but the teaching concepts are John's. And I've learned a lot from John. Again, like I said, I study from anybody who's willing to teach, even if sometimes I learn what not to do. But John's not one of those guys. John's a very talented copywriter, and I've learned a lot from him, and this is a very solid product. And one of the offers that we're going to make to you is the ability to get the entire course, the Write Hot, Copy Fast course, for far less than $47. In fact, I'll just go ahead and tell you the price on that right now. It's going to be $9.95. And in addition to that, I don't have the URL right now, or I'd show it to you, but there is a one-time offer behind this $47 offer, and I honestly forget the pricing at the moment, but it's significant. The one-time offer goes into how to write opt-in page or lead generating page type copy, goes into how to write one-time offer copy, and there's a bunch of other bonuses as well, and that product is going to be included in the offer as well. So you'll get basically the entire Write Hot, Copy Fast product, both the front end and the back end, for like I said, $9.95. In addition to that, though, I'm creating a new course that is completely my own, something that basically goes through my approach specifically to not just copywriting, but copywriting and marketing and sales and persuasion, etc., and not just on long-form sales letters. We're gonna definitely discuss long-form sales letters because it is a lot of what I do in my own business, but even more so because if you understand all of the different elements on a long-form sales letter, then writing short-form copy is just that much easier. It would be very hard for me to teach you short-form copy. Short-form copy I would talk about, I mean, it can be incredibly short, like an AdWords ad. You're not given a whole lot of space to get your message across. You get 25 characters in the title and 35 characters on the next two lines. You have to be able to persuade, and you have to be able to persuade very, very quickly in an AdWords ad, or even say a Twitter post. You have 140 characters, etc. So short form copy is a slightly different art than writing long form sales letters. We're going to cover that too. We're also going to cover more than just that. We're going to cover how to write copy for like an e-commerce type site, which that gets into not just copywriting, but also gets into SEO. So we're going to talk a little bit about SEO copywriting. We're going to talk a little bit about writing press releases. We are going to talk about some offline copy, some postcard techniques, some direct mail techniques, etc., to both improve not only the copy but also your open rates, etc. It's going to be a very well-rounded product. And the reason why I'm creating it is because I plan on writing a full-length book on the topic of copywriting and marketing. I don't know exactly how long it will be, but it'll probably be 150 to 250 plus pages. And I am putting together the entire table of contents, basically, or an order flow of what I want to teach in the book, and I'm going to break it down into most likely 7 different 2-hour live webinars. And I'm going to teach anybody that gets into that offer, I'm going to teach anybody that gets into that offer basically the contents of the book in 7 2-hour sections, and you're going to get a bunch of additional bonuses too, because I'm creating a whole bunch of additional stuff to support the new book. So that offer, basically, it's live webinar coaching. Of course, the webinars will be recorded. You'll also get the entire Write Hot Copy Fast product that I just mentioned. There's a bunch of bonuses that I'll not mention now. I'll wait till I make the full offer to you. Hopefully within the next day to no longer than 3. And the pricing on that is going to be way too cheap as well. And the pricing will be way too cheap, and I'll get into that later. But just suffice to say, it's going to be in keeping with my normal kind of "are you kidding me" type pricing. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. If I go to copyeclass.com, this is not my site, but this site is run by another marketer whose name you would probably know. I won't mention it. But you'll see right here at the top, the price for this course is $995. If you look around for information, and quite honestly, there's not a whole lot, under session details, you'll also see that it says you get access to a total of 6 training sessions, 1 per week. It's the exact type of training that I intend to give, except for we're going to go 1 session at least longer, and the price won't be anywhere near $1,000. As a matter of fact, it's going to be way under $100. I'll just leave it at that. The only reason I'm making it that cheap is, first off, it's just kind of my heart anyway. I'm not a greedy guy. I love this topic. It's fun for me anyway. I like to share. I like to teach, but at the same time, I have a business. I have a family that needs to be fed, so I can't just give it away for free. In addition to that, though, I'm really using this as my own kind of get off my duff impetus to get the book written. So as I create the content for each one of these webinars, obviously that will help me create the content for the book. And then once the book is completely done, and I don't know exactly when that will be, obviously it'll take some time after the course is finished, but anybody that gets into the training program is also going to get a copy of the book. Now, I should say, not the physical copy. If you want that, it'll be available at Amazon. But if you want a digital copy of the book, I will make that available to you as part of this as well. So with that, we're past time. I appreciate you guys hanging out. If you have any questions, I'll stay on for another. How long you got, Dave? 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah, I got about 10 minutes.
About 10 minutes. All right. So. Yeah. If you have questions, you want to shoot them to Dave. Dave will hit me up with the ones that he thinks are most relevant for the next 10 minutes. I'll do my best to answer them. And then I'll wish you a great Thursday.
People are asking for the link to the offers. Obviously, that's not available yet.
I'm sorry.
There was a question if you're going to have this all written out and everything. And the answer to that is yes, of course.
Well, you're talking about the offer?
The offer. Yes.
Yeah. The offer will be on a page for you to see specifically to take your time and know exactly what's going to come with it.
Joe wanted to know if your offer was going to be price equivalent to what you would have found during Claude Hopkins' day.
Pretty much.
That's what I told him. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably a little bit more.
Yeah. Actually, I'll reveal to you, if you want to do some homework, I'll reveal something to you. The last copywriting book that I purchased and read was by Joseph Sugarman, Sugarman. The name of the book is The Adweek Copywriting Handbook. Excuse me. The Adweek Copywriting Handbook by Joseph Sugarman. I'm looking at the U.S. retail price, which I won't mention just for fun, but it's going to be less than that. So if you really want to go look, and I'm not talking about you go find it for $5, used at a bookstore. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the actual retail price of that book, and that's a great book, by the way. But yeah, it's going to be priced far too low. We are going to limit the number of people in there. Of course, I always have to whenever I offer a live webinar training, because even though Dave and I have the premium package through GoToWebinar that allows us to put 1,000 live attendees on a webinar, I do have some VIP clients that are getting access to this without cost, and I have to keep space open for them. So I'm not sure exactly about it. It's probably going to be limited to about 850 participants, and that might seem like a lot, but Dave and I both sold more than that in 24 hours on several occasions, and so I don't know how long the offer will remain open, but I think it's going to be limited to 850 people at the price that will be revealed to you in a day or two. Yeah, if you jumped in late, I apologize. I just had some crazy life stuff going on, and I didn't get the back end of the offer finished. So we gave out a freebie. I don't know if you guys got it. I'll send it out in the email again, but if you didn't, I'll send it again to everybody. If you came on late and you didn't get the free scientific advertising PDF written by Claude Hopkins, that link will get it to you. Any other questions, Dave? We're good.
No, I wrote down a ton of questions, but they're probably more suited for the training, because we're not going to get into a whole lot of that today. But let's see, questions. I'm just kind of skimming through. No, there's a lot of people saying count me in. I think they really, from a marketing standpoint, and I've only been successful in this business for about 2 years, and I'm still such a novice at copywriting. So I'm really looking forward to the training. And I see a lot of you guys that are on the call today are doing the same. I'm seeing a lot of comments here about how important copywriting is. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely is. Just remember, though, that copywriting is important, absolutely, positively important. But don't disconnect that from the understanding that if you really want killer offers, if you really want offers that convert at a much higher than average pace, you really have to consider everything from your copy to the offer to the graphics to, of course, everything else. We didn't even get in the topic of obviously getting your offer in front of the right audience, but that's a big thing too.
Yeah, we had a discussion the other day, and it always runs through my mind about, when you say what the offer is, and I think there's so many factors involved with the offer, with the price. Like, I couldn't even tell you right now what, if somebody were to ask me, and I've sold, plenty of products on the internet, but if somebody were to ask me what does an ebook sell for these days, if that was the only thing as part of the offer, I think what I'm trying to get at is, like, how do you approach copywriting for an offer, but the offer is, it would be, in my opinion, very thin. You know, if it was just an ebook on how to build a go-kart, you know, but that's all you get. All you get is the ebook. How do you go about with your mindset of how you're going to price this offer? How are you going to make this offer seem just bigger than what it really is on the surface? It's just a digital book.
Okay, so
does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely. So here's what you have to understand. And this is to Dave and to anybody else that was thinking something similar. I talked about, even just part of this webinar, is that you have to get into the mind of your prospect to know what it is that they desire, what is it that they want, where are their emotional hot buttons, where are their frustrations, where are their pains, what do they love and hate. You have to know all that stuff in order to not only, and of course if you're a product creator, this course is going to help you be a better product creator too, even though it's not really designed specifically for that. But the end result is, what we're looking to do is we're looking to add value, real value, to other people's lives. And if you're doing that with your products and services, and if you're passionately conveying that to your prospects, you're probably going to do quite well. So going back to the the question there is, let me ask you this. Let me ask you, how much, Dave, would you be willing to pay if I were to scratch down on a simple cocktail napkin the cure for cancer? Huh?
How much would I be willing to pay?
I have the cure for cancer. Of course I don't, but I'm just, for example, I have the cure for cancer. I scratch it down on a cocktail napkin and I say, I have the cure for cancer. What would you be willing to pay for it?
I'd be willing to pay every dollar that I have in my bank account.
Right. Absolutely. And you'd figure out a way, if I said that wasn't enough, you'd figure out a way to go get investors and give me more. Yeah. The reality is, it's not the vehicle. The vehicle, if you focus the offer on the vehicle, the cocktail napkin, it's not worth much, right? Well, the value of the offer is in not only the information, but what the value of the information and what the information, you know, could do for people. So, for instance, I mean, if you had the cure for cancer, obviously there'd be a lot of people that would be willing to pay billions of dollars for it. So, and sadly, we won't get into a big conversation of that. Probably the biggest people would want to buy it would be the drug companies, because they'd want to burn the napkin.
Yeah.
But the value of the thing is huge. It has nothing to do with the vehicle. So what I'm saying to you is, if you're going to sell an ebook, the question then becomes, are you selling an ebook? And I say no, you're not. If you position the offer such that it's the ebook you are selling, then you are only going to be able to get, you know, the normal average for what an ebook sells for. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Go back to the fact that I told you I purchased a book from Clayton Makepeace and I paid $294 rather for the book. The question then is, well, why? Why would anyone in their right mind, and of course you might say that I'm not, but why would anybody in their right mind pay $294 for a normal average-sized book, right? And it's because that the way the offer was positioned and the way that the copy was written about it, I wasn't buying a book. Does that make sense? I'm buying lessons from a copywriter who is the highest paid, most people say he's the highest paid copywriter living today. He makes somewhere in essence, or in excess of $3 million annually just from copywriting royalties. And he's going to, you know, basically lay out his most treasured, you know, nuggets of wisdom on how you can sell more. So why did I buy the thing? Did I buy it because I wanted a book? No. I bought it because the credibility of this person is such that I believe that if I learn the nuggets that he has to teach and if I implement them in my business, that I'm going to receive a return on my investment dollar greater than $294. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Yeah,
So,
because
so
there's so much perspective involved in the whole buying process.
right. So the answer to that is he didn't say, look, I have a great book. Click order now for $294. It wasn't the book that was being sold. Of course, that's what I received,
Hmm.
but the offer was positioned in such a way as to say, look, again, the title of this particular book, and you unfortunately you can't buy it anymore. They took their their online bookstore offline. It's called 2 Hours to More Profitable Sales Copy, and um, and that was the whole offer positioning. How can you, in just a couple of hours, improve your sales copy to the point where your conversions start to go, strongly up, and you make a whole lot more money? And if I can learn that in just a couple of hours, and if I can implement it, I know full well that I'm going to make $294 in the first basically offer that I attach it to, and so therefore it's a good investment for me. So that makes sense. Going back to real quickly something else you said, and then we'll call this a day. Another thing, if you are a product creator, or even if you're just an affiliate marketer, you have ways to improve the offer. So here's what I mean. Let's say that you do have that ebook for sale, and you said it was on how to build a go-kart or something like that, didn't you?
Right.
Okay. So how do you make the offer better? Okay, number one, if the offer was simply a how-to of building a go-kart, it would have a value of, let's say, X, whatever that is, $9.95, right?
Hmm.
What if it was more than that, though? What if, on an emotional level, the offer was positioned in such a way as building the go-kart is only the ends to the means, but part of the real benefit is the amazing enjoyment you're going to get from doing this process with your son or daughter, and the relationship building, and just the quality time that you're going to have, the amount of fun that you're going to have through the process, the amount of learning that you're going to do together, and then of course at the end you're going to reap this amazing results of having built your own go-kart. That now enhances the offer. You're talking about a different element. It's not just a how-to book anymore. It's a parent-child,
Hmm.
relationship building activity. Now,
Hmm.
what if in addition to that you can add another benefit or another positioning to the offer that says, well, wait a minute, um, you can, if you go to, the store, you can buy a go-kart for, say, $375, but we've revealed all the very best resources in this book that if you follow our recommendations, you're going to be able to put it together, for only $125, saving you $250. So now the book becomes a $250 profit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can go buy it from the store for $375, or we're going to teach you how to build a comparable model for $125. Now, what's the book worth? Worth a whole lot more than $9.99 if I really believe it's credible, if I really believe that buying the book is going to save me $250, right?
Right.
So there's another aspect to it. Past that, though, I would say the other things to think about when you're thinking about your offers is to not just think of it, well, to think, how can I improve the offer? In addition to just the offer positioning, and everything I just told you about was the offer positioning. The book may have already included information in it about parent-child activities. It might have even included the resources. But if the marketer only highlighted all of the benefits of how to this book will teach you how to build a go-kart. They missed out on all sorts of powerful opportunities to position the offer. But in addition to that, we all know that not everybody likes to learn the same. So some people, like me, love to read. Some people don't. Some people like, to throw something in their MP3 player and listen to it. So maybe you could have, the book read and provided MP3. Or maybe you could do a webinar presentation on it and then have a video presentation, which you could then get transcribed, and you could turn the audio portion of the webinar into an MP3. And so with just having done just the webinar and recording it, you now have the ability to add that to the offer. So you get the book, and as a bonus, you also get the MP3 audio in case that's more your style, and you get a full-blown video where we show you, graphically teach you more about the thing. And we've had this thing transcribed, so if you want to, read the copy to that, or maybe not the transcription because since you're already giving the book, but you get the idea.
Right.
You can improve the offer in sometimes very simplistic ways if you just use a little creativity, a little thought behind the process. Does that help?
Yeah, no.
Or you're just lying to me?
No, it helped a little bit.
All right, everybody. I think Dave and I are done for the day. So thanks for attending. Thanks for showing up. Have a absolutely fantastic Thursday. Hopefully a great upcoming weekend. And look